So my team and I were attacking on bind. I peek out of showers and get a kill on the killjoy. There are 2 enemies left and we see that they're both back U-Haul, so we make the call to TP to B. But me, like the monkey that I am, tunnels onto the rifle on the ground. I go, gun good, me want, and I make a beeline for the Phantom. And I get rightfully owned by the Reyna. But the star of this video isn't me, it's our Omen. So it's a 2v2 scenario, KO plants a spike and Omen posts CT with his op. No. Let's see how Omen could have played that better. It's a 2v2 scenario and we know both enemies were on A, and you have an op. I really like your decision to post CT. You know the enemies will most likely rotate from CT. If they take the TP, you'll hear it, and if they decide to flank from market, you know it's going to take a really long time, so you don't need to worry about watching the flank just yet. Also, the op is at its strongest when you're holding an angle, so I really like this decision to op CT. But here's where things start going wrong. You decide to post quite far away from the corner. To understand why this is a mistake, we need to first talk about standard angles and off angles. Standard angles are angles that are right next to cover. This positioning is really strong because it allows you to have options. If you're playing at a standard angle and you get peeked, you can choose to come into the fight, shoot a few bullets and duck back behind cover, or be a pacifist and immediately duck into safety after getting the info. Options. That is why angles that are right next to cover are so strong. But because they're so good, those are the angles most players pay attention to when they peek. Players will pre-aim at standard angles because that's where they expect you to play. Standard angles give you options and safety, but come at a cost of being predictable. If standard angles are the uptight, methodical, straight-A student, then off angles is their wild, adventurous, high school dropout sibling. Off angles are angles that are away from cover. These are angles that are basically out in the open. Unlike standard angles, if you're playing in an off angle, you only have one option. Take the gunfight. This makes playing off angles extremely risky. If you get flashed, you're a sitting duck out in the open. Even if you do get a kill, there's a high chance you'll just get traded. Like, being away from cover and out in the open is just a terrible position to be in. But because of that, your enemies won't expect you to play in those positions. When they peek, the crosshair is going to be pre-aimed at the standard angle instead of the off angle you're playing, and your crosshair is going to be right on them. That's why off angles are so powerful. With off angles, you give up options and take on a lot more risk, but in return, you gain the advantage of unpredictability. And then someone at Riot was like, what if we made an agent that can play off angles, but at no risk?
Win. Show me where to go.
I ain't tryna. Yeah, ain't tryna be cool like you. Running around in your high heel shoes, I'm clumsy. Made friends with the floor. 2 for 1, you know I try for it. And 2 left feet, you know I always drop. First thing I go to was back on the whole damn cake and the cherry on top. Shook up the bottom, made a good
Be faster.
Said I took it and I ran for it.
But things change if you have an op. If you're watching this, I'm sure you know what an op is. You know, that expensive gun that fires once, goes cock for 10 seconds before you can shoot your next shot. Because you're a sitting duck after you shoot once, if you're playing an off angle, you're guaranteed to get traded after you get your first kill, or if you miss, then you're guaranteed to die since you're out in the open. That's why if you're using an op, you should almost never play in off angles. The risk is just too high and the reward isn't even that much higher. Like, an op holding an angle will win 9 out of 10 times, assuming you hit your shot, regardless of where you're posted. So when you're opping, you should almost always play in standard angles. Of course, none of what I just said applies to Jett. Alright, back to our hero, the Omen. You post a CT with an op, but you're quite far away from the corner, meaning you're currently in an off angle. Remember what we just said, if you're opping, don't play in off angles because the risk is just too high. Also, listen closely to the sound cues.
Get out of my way!
We hear Jett pop her knives, we hear a TP sound, and we hear footsteps CT, so we know exactly where both enemies are. But here's the big mistake. When you heard Reyna CT, you go into an even wider off angle. Like, bro, if you miss that shot, you're gonna die. You missed a shot, but because Reyna wasn't expecting you to be literally standing in the middle of nowhere, she panics and somehow you get out. It happens, we take those. But re-peeking Reyna was the fatal mistake. Because at this point, it's been about 4 seconds since you heard a Jett TP, meaning she's at the hookah choke right now and is about to peek you. By peeking into Reyna the second time, 2 things can happen. Either you kill Reyna and get traded by Jett, or you miss and then die to their crossfire. And as we know, the latter ended up happening. Here's how I think Omen should have played the scenario. Post CT close to the corner so you're at a staring angle, take the shot against the Reyna, you heard Jett TP, so now you reposition and repost hookah. When Jett swings, boom, kill the Jett, win the round. Now, of course, that's the ideal scenario. Let's say we missed the first shot like Omen did. Boom. We heard the Jett TP, so instead of re-peeking, we can do one of two things. Either we reposition to some place where we're not exposed to hookah, so maybe here, it's a little bit risky, but you could go here, or you could reposition back to over here and then just post CT for the Reyna to re-peek. Or number two, you could gamble that Jett's gonna instantly swing out hookah, which is actually pretty likely since she popped knives. So you would have your back exposed to Reyna, but you would get the kill on the Jett and then reposition somewhere else and then repost on the Reyna. Now, of course, that's definitely a little bit of a riskier choice, but if you're confident that Jett's gonna instantly swing out hookah, then this play might not be even that bad. Omen's biggest mistake in my opinion was playing in an off-angle CT when he had an op. It's honestly a miracle Omen lived after missing his first shot. If you have an op, play next to cover. Play in standard angles, unless you're Jett chamber or a confident Reyna. And of course, this scenario isn't as black and white as I'm making it seem. This is because at the end of the day, it's a 2 versus 2. Like for example, if we hear Jett TP and Reyna's not peeking out from CT because she's just really disciplined, we would then need to reposition away from CT and onto hookah because our back was exposed to hookah. And because our back's exposed to CT, we would come to our KO, who was default, to hold CT for us. I think he has a rifle. To hold CT for us because he has first contact, while we post somewhere like here for the Jett. But we also have to consider that KO was low at the start of the play, so even that setup might not be optimal. In hindsight, maybe the better play would have been for Omen to post CT from tube and then have KO playing shed holding the hookah drop. There's honestly so many ways they could have played it. As you can see, the scenario becomes a lot more interesting when it becomes a 2 versus 2. Now, talking about how to properly play post plant isn't the main focus of this video, but if this is a topic that you want to see, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you found this video useful, consider sharing it with a friend. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to let me know that you enjoy this kind of content. Alright, thanks for watching, have a great day.